Hi, firstly I just want to say thank you to all of those that have watched my first videos. I've had some great feedback which has been really positive for me, to try and get better over the next few posts, try and give you more of what you want, less of what you don't want. I heard the comments about the wind and stuff. I quite like it, to be honest with you. There was no fancy cameras, there was no fancy recordings, it was just me, and if it was windy where I'm talking then it will be windy. So hopefully though you heard what I said, and it sort of took you to where you are as a fan, supporting the club you love, things like that. I'm going to be talking more about that over the next few weeks. One of the questions I've had, though, I wasn't going to do this video so soon. I'm off to Athletic Bilbao tomorrow to spend 4 nights over there to look at the academy right the way through to the first team, take a game in as well. So I'll be recording that, putting it on the page, hopefully getting some feedback and chatting to you all about that. But one of the questions I've had from one of my subscribers, he goes to one of the schools that I'm fortunate enough for me and the coaches working. His name's Lewis, he's in year 5, and he said, who is your favourite player at the moment that's playing? So I wanted to do this for Lewis, and hopefully the rest of you will enjoy the content of it as well. So the obvious ones are Messi and Ronaldo. People talk about Messi and Ronaldo all the time. Who's my favourite? My personal favourite is Lionel Messi. Reasons I could argue all day long. I could probably do a video for the next hour or so and still not give you any reasons to agree or disagree with me, considering how good Ronaldo is as well. So rather than go into that debate, I'm going to give you the 3 players that I love, enjoy watching the most, probably from a coaching perspective. The third one I think will surprise you, so stay tuned for that one. First one is Sergio Busquets of Barcelona in Spain. I am a huge fan of his. Those that know me, those that work with me in coaching will know that Busquets, to me, is my favourite player. To me, he simplifies the game in the way that he keeps the ball moving, obviously from defence to from the midfield, passing those balls into attacking areas for the more, if you like, flamboyant players to get onto, i.e. Messi, and go and exploit what he's good at. But for me, Busquets is just a fantastic player. As a coach, I've watched him 5 or 6 times live. And I remember the first time I watched him, I was always told that he dropped in between the 2 centre-backs, and obviously started attacks from there. And when he dropped into that hole between the 2, it meant that if players went with him, then people had space in the midfield, or if they stayed in there, then Busquets would get on the ball and then look to find probably Iniesta or Xavi at the time. He's continued to do that. I think he's developed his role at Barcelona as well now, more of a senior player, more of a leader. And you talk to, I've seen many interviews that, the top players within Barcelona all sort of say that, Busquets is the real sort of key to their success, even though there's been, like I said, there's been players there that have took the limelight. So for me, Busquets, that discipline, that unselfish role of just sitting in front of those 2 central defenders and tidying everything up, but the way that he sees the game and the way that he's in the right places. And I remember my first time I watched him, I knew where Busquets was going to go. So as a coach, I was looking, I thought, I know and he appeared there. So I was quite happy with myself. I remember him picking up a position. It was sort of, it was the left-sided centre-back and the left-back were both in line, and he dropped in between the 2. Now, if the left-sided full-back had gone and he dropped in at left-back, that's something that I've seen Pochettino Spurs do, and with Saints, with Schneiderlin dropping in there for Saints, and Dyer's picked up there for Tottenham. But this was weird because it was the left-sided defender and the left-sided left-back were both in the same position. They had the ball, and he dropped into this position, and it literally caused confusion to the opposition. A player went with him, but instead of going with him, then thought the ball was going to miss him out and go to the left back. He started an attack from there, and it was Alexis Sanchez playing on the left that I remember, that he got in down the side and the ball came in, and Barcelona had a shot at goal. And I just remember thinking, wow. So since then I've studied him, his movement, where sometimes he works hard, but he often works clever, so he'll move 2 or 3 yards just to stop an attack or just change the angle to receive a ball. So he's the prime example of, rather than running and pressing and running 30 yards to get close to people, sometimes he just uses that into game intelligence. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the best centre-back in the world, in my opinion, Virgil Van Dijk. Now, I know that that's going to straight away strike a chord with people and say, well, how can you say that, Jody? The first time I came across Virgil van Dijk was when he was at Southampton. We were Chelsea away. We won the game 3-1. It was one of the games close to when Jose Mourinho then got the sack in his second spell at Chelsea. And Van Dijk, for me, that day was just a colossus. I remember the ball got played over the top and it was 2-1 to Saints at the time, and Pedro burst through and the whole of Stamford Bridge stood up. There was expectation. I remember Van Dijk just coming across, and I remember shouting at the top of my, "We'll get there." You know, I put a few expletives in there if I'm honest, but it was basically along the lines of "Virgil, get there." He strolled across, and I mean cruised. Pedro's about to go on goal. Van Dijk just stepped in, used his right arm, held him off, chipped the ball over Pedro's feet, turned, dribbled up the left wing, okay, played a 1-2 with a midfielder, went down the line. He's in the left wing position now, put a cross in, they headed that out for a corner. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, the composure. And I know that a lot of footballers now, especially at the back, like Stones and PK and players like that, you know, it's renowned for playing and being calm on the ball. But this was something I hadn't seen before. A player that had literally gone from centre-back to left midfield to left wing in one move. Over the coming games at Saints, he was just colossus. Everything he was in the air, he won in the air. But I do believe that a lot of the success was down to his partnership with Jose Font, who's one of my heroes in a Southampton shirt. But Van Dijk, for me, you go to Liverpool and everyone was saying, is he worth the money? He's been out injured. And I said at the time, this would catapult Liverpool from being challengers, okay, so, you know, to champions. I do believe that they will win a major trophy over the next 1-2 years with him in that side. He's got everything. He can head a ball. He's left foot. He can play with left foot, right foot. He can cover the other centre back. He can defend out wide if he needs to when he's pushed out wide to defend in wide areas. But what Van Dijk has done, people talk about Liverpool, people talk about Klopp, people talk about the way they play. I think it's a little bit disrespectful when they say it's a lot of chaos. Maybe it is, and it's, you know, rock and roll football. But Van Dijk has brought that calmness to the side, and I think that Virgil van Dijk is going to be a huge success. He's going to be a hit. He's going to be a Liverpool legend. What Van Dijk does as well is not just what you see on the ball and when he's defending, but a lot of the time Van Dijk has organised and put a calmness, and he moves players into position in front of him, so the ball doesn't even get into Van Dijk's area. Pundits, people don't even pick up on it, but because he's organised what's in front of him, with whether it be Milner, Wijnaldum, Henderson, whoever it is in front, he's now got an organisation there, which means that the ball doesn't even come into the defensive area for Van Dijk to deal with. That's why his presence and everything is so key to Liverpool's success. Bringing through Gomez, talking to the young players like that. So the first one I said was Sergio Busquets, who I believe is a top class player for the reasons I've already said, and Virgil van Dijk, who I think over the next year or two, maybe a little bit longer, but I think he'll go on to be a great at Liverpool, and people will talk about him, I believe, as the best centre-back in the world. My last one, okay, is a player that's been out injured, and I watched him play for Watford against Southampton at the start of last season, and he ran the show, and I was really impressed with him, and I've seen a little bit of Busquets in him, and I also seen some energy in him. That's Nathaniel Chalobah, who's now at Watford. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's definitely one to watch out for. I do believe that if he'd have been fit this season, playing for Watford, or last season, should I said, he would have gone to the World Cup. And I do believe that he will be England's holding midfield player or centre midfield player, that one that can start attacks from the defence, playing in, dropping in between the two centre-backs, dropping in between the centre-back and the full-back, and then also protecting us, okay, when we lose the ball. He's got good energy, good passing range, can get up and down the pitch, and I'm really excited to see him develop, hopefully injury-free, over the next few years. So, Lewis, thank you ever so much for your question. This is an extra video dedicated to you. Thank you ever so much for subscribing. I'd let you know when this comes on, put who your favourite three are, because you didn't actually write that. So thanks ever so much again. Like I said, I'm off to Athletic Bilbao in the morning. Over the next couple of days, I'll be trying to keep everyone posted with what's going on there. Thank you for your support. Let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about. I've got loads coming up. When I get back from Bilbao, I'm going to do some sessions as well that you'll be able to see with my GoPro. But yeah, thanks ever so much, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers.